Morning, welcome to 59 Minutes. My name is Levi Kones. It's a very good day to have a discussion concerning matters to do with addiction. We're very passionate about that because, you know, addiction gets in the way of so many things and blocks us from achieving our full potential. To join me in an addiction discussion, hey, that's a tongue twister, about women this morning and why addiction in women must be addressed urgently is certified addiction therapist Caroline KAGIA. Caroline KAGIA, you would remember, has told her story in many fora. Part of it, we try to enter into it kidogo even as we talk, but basically, you are that person who's blazing the trail on matters to do with addiction in women. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Levi.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to see you.
Glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Tell me, are you following this discussion that's going on with the government? Kufunga mabaa, sijui, kufunga changadens. Are you aware that yesterday the Deputy President said something?
He said something, but I think it's just hogwash. It's not going to happen.
That's a hefty word. Why?
This is Kenya because we say one thing, we preach water and drink wine. These changadens and these bars are money-making scheme. I mean, they are money, they bring in money. And this money, of course, the taxes go where? To the government. There's no way these places are going to be closed. It's impossible. So it's just talk. But on the ground, it's really different.
Action.
Action is
We'll talk about action, but let's start with this topic we're having. Why addiction in women should be addressed urgently.
Yeah.
Why are you passionate about that? I'm
passionate about women and alcoholism because of my own personal life, having struggled with alcoholism for 2 decades. And I know the gravity of the matter now because having been to rehab twice and now coming out and being a campaigner, and I champion a lot for women in this country. And when my stories they started going viral, especially towards the end of last year, a lot of women would reach out to me and write me messages in my inbox, telling me about the way they are struggling. And when I say women, I mean mothers, women, mature women, pastors, female pastors, who preach on Sunday, but in the afternoon they are ordering from Glovo and Jumia to be brought for their drinks in their house. I'm talking about girls, as young as girls in class 4, who are indulging in alcohol. So the gravity of the matter is getting worse, and it's very worrying because the trajectory is moving at a very high speed. But unfortunately, I've always said that women and alcoholism, that issue is still the elephant in the room because we don't discuss it here. In the West, they have accepted that alcoholism happens among women, and they have come to a point whereby they say that it is not a respect of gender. Whether you're a female or a male, if you're an alcoholic, you're treated the same. But here in Africa, I don't know, let me speak for Kenya. In Kenya, there's still that stigma associated with women and alcoholism, just the same way that there was that stigma of HIV and AIDS in the 90s. So here it is still talked about in closed and hidden circles. And that's why people get into my inbox and they message me privately saying, come, I would like you to speak to my daughter, but don't share with anybody. It's a secret. But it's not a secret because alcoholism with time is like pregnancy. With time it will show. So I come out to speak boldly about it because I've been through addiction. I know the struggles that females go through, but yet nobody is talking about it. And it's crazy because we are the ones who give birth to children.
True.
You see? And most of the women who are caught up in this thing are in their childbearing ages. So if you are a woman who is drinking and you're in your childbearing ages, and then you get pregnant, you give birth to what we call an alcoholic seed. You see? And your child will be born with problems like fetal alcohol syndrome distress, whereby your child will develop slowly, not like a normal child, or you could end up getting miscarriages because of your drinking. You could end up with so many things. There are so many things that happen to women more than men, and it's because we were created differently. Our makeup is more delicate than that of men. And so that is, my cry has been to start a movement whereby I can get women who have gone through addiction and are not ashamed of their journey in addiction and are willing to come out to reach out to others.
There's still not enough people who talk.
No, they're not.
Who have gone through this
We are very few, but I know men through it, but still the stigma. And then there's that association of if you're a female you're a female alcoholic, you must be a prostitute. And that's a lie. Where does prostitution and alcoholism come into play? They don't.
Poor judgment.
Yeah, poor judgment.
Maybe there's an imagination that with a poor judgment then comes, and also a presumption from men that a woman who is drunk is fair game. Yeah. Which is also very...
And that is very wrong. For me, I was not a prostitute. I just struggled with addiction. I got into alcoholism, just the way you enter into something very innocently. Some people start drinking, they start experimenting earlier in life, but they never get addicted. I started experimenting at the age of 19, but because there's that genetic predisposition in my family, extended family, unfortunately it caught up with me. But you see, God has been gracious to me. I've walked the journey. It was a very painful journey, a very hard journey, but the reason I'm seated here with you today is because God has helped me to overcome. And so I like forums like this whereby I can encourage women who are struggling with the same to come out and speak out, or to seek for help, because help is available. Help is everywhere. You just need to reach out and speak to somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does someone start? Maybe you can draw even from yourself. How do you start to ask for help, and you're a woman who is, seeing that I'm struggling, I need help, and there's all this, assumption by men that a woman should be able to take care of herself, should be having it together. Where does someone start? Because I think that's where the biggest problem is.
Where do you start?
Where do you start? You
first have to accept that you have a problem, and that is usually the hardest part. Accepting that you actually have a drinking problem is not easy for most of us. Even when I knew I had a drinking problem for a very long time. I knew it was there, but you see, there's that ego that checks in. You're still thinking, I have this together, but you don't have it together because you can't keep down a job, you can't take care of your family, you can't even maintain yourself, even your hair looks bad. You start missing appointments, but you're still thinking you have it together, yet you don't. So there's the element and the aspect of pride that checks in, and that is what stops many of us from seeking for help. But help is available. If you go to some of these hospitals, they give free counseling. People say therapy is expensive. They use it as an excuse not to seek for help. But there are many institutions, many organizations that are giving, even some churches, some mainstream churches are giving free counseling. You just go in and say you want to speak to somebody and you'll get help. Yeah. Even hospitals like Kenyatta Hospital, if I can mention, they have counselors on standby who offer free counseling services for people who are struggling with any sort of, trauma or addiction. And you don't have to pay a cent. All you have to pay
from your own experience, what do you think should have been done differently when you were struggling yourself?
For me, I think everything worked the way it was supposed to work. I mean, like, I had the most supportive dad. He was literally that man has seen my journey from the beginning until where I am now. There's nothing he didn't do. He got all sorts of therapists. He paid, my father has paid a lot of money to get me help. But it's because he could see that there was a greater potential in me. You see, I was just wasting away, considering I've gone to good schools, I've worked locally and internationally, and he could see something in me that I was allowing to die. And that is the problem with alcoholism and addiction. We self-sabotage. Self-sabotaging is like you're trying to see how low you can go. It's like you're taunting death to see if death will come. But even death can't refuse you, by the way. If God has refused with you, there's no way death will take you. So for me, as Caroline, what was done was enough. That is the way it was supposed to be. But for those who are struggling with alcoholism or any sort of substance, another problem why many people don't come out is because their families wash their hands off, number one. Or number two, the family itself is in denial. You keep telling the person, well, unaweza toka ukitaka. If you want, you'll stop. But the person, by the time you're telling somebody they can stop if they want, they cannot stop themselves. They have been unable, you see? So now, because of the shame associated with having an alcoholic or a substance use person in your home, you try to hide the person. That doesn't work, by the way. I would like to tell people that alcoholism is for real. I think, a few years ago, we could pinpoint and say that family has it, that family has it. But now, almost every home has a case of somebody who is struggling with alcoholism. It's not a shame anymore. It's something we should speak about and speak about openly. And I speak about it passionately because at the rate we are moving, I fear for the next generation, if there will be one.
It's interesting you're saying at the rate we are moving. Yesterday, my wife was telling me about how a colleague of hers at work was telling her about how people are doing cocaine in the clubs and they're not even hiding.
Yeah.
And young people are getting into alcoholism so easily, and especially you see the shisha takers, a lot of them are now women.
And vaping.
vaping.
Yeah.
You know, I don't even know what vaping is. Maybe
Vaping
you can explain.
is an e-cigarette. Vaping is in the form of an e-cigarette, whereby there's a liquid you buy, they put it in the e-cigarette and you inhale. Now, vaping has taken over shisha because shisha was banned in Kenya. So now you buy a vape, I think it's a few thousands, that kind of thing. I think the cheapest is about 2,000 bob. Then they fill for you the liquid and then you inhale. It's flavored. What people don't know about vaping is that it is one of the quickest ways to develop lung cancer. It has no smell. In fact, the smell is sweet. My son tried it once in school, almost fainted. So it is sweet, yeah? It is sweet. So now you keep vaping and vaping. I went somewhere with a friend of ours, a common friend of ours, last year, December. And in the bowling alley, there's a place they had written, vaping here. So they're selling those vapes. And you could see kids my son's age. My son is 17. And they're seated there, vaping. And it was what time? Around 2 p.m. And these kids don't know that vaping is one of the easiest ways of getting lung cancer. And the lung cancer comes very slowly because that thing is sweet. I mean, it has strawberry flavor, blueberry flavor, all sorts of flavors, taking over shisha. You see, shisha was so bad, people never really researched on shisha. One puff of shisha was equivalent to smoking like close to 400 cigarettes. Okay? By the time you finish that whole shisha thing, you have 400 cigarettes in your system. Okay? That's when people started developing complications that guys are still sorting today. Now, because Kenyans don't like to research or to read, they just like the new thing. Now vaping has come. These vapes are cute, by the way. They look so nice. Even if you see it, you'll want it. It looks like something you just want to hang out with and show people. But that is lung cancer waiting for you. Lung cancer in an e-cigarette. And guys don't know it. Yeah?
There's a lot of questions about, you know, how much the authorities can go in trying to help. Because here you are, you talk about these things. And then, you know, advertising in Kenya is so easy. Yeah. You look at a brand of beer or a whiskey and the way it's advertised, even on a billboard, it's so attractive. Yeah. And it's so easy to do it, you know, so it's right in your face, like you're driving on the road and boom. There it is. And then you look at the fact that, me even look at matatu graffiti. You know, we have graffiti that's just someone smoking weed. It's an advert. I mean, here we are saying it's illegal, but here's a whole matri with a guy with clearly what is a weed stick with rings on it, and that matatu is driving everywhere. You know, being seen as
full 360-degree advertising.
And no problem with graffiti, but I was thinking, hey, so you can do different graffiti. And then we have, you know, bars, you know, that can allow anyone to buy a drink, that can allow you to drive out when you're drunk at all. There's no, an accident happens and there is no one going to hold the bar to account that you would let this guy out when he was drinking so highly. You know, in developed countries, they would say, bring your keys. We're going to put you in a taxi. We'll send you home. To what extent do you think that government and authorities should step in to also help curb the vice? Because when you hear like the Deputy President speaking and saying, you know, this thing is destroying, and he was talking about Central Province, and I said, it's not just Central Province. You should come to my village. It's everywhere. It's no longer a provincial story at this side, this side, this side. Every home we are talking to, even this morning, there are people who are listening to us whose brothers are alcoholics or sisters are alcoholics or, you know, aunties, uncles. It has touched everyone in some way. So how do we get authorities to come in?
Even before you go into authorities, I want you to drive along Ngong Road. There was a billboard, I don't know if it's still up, that was advertising a teen club, a teen girls club in Marsabit Plaza, okay? A club. And when I did my homework, I discovered that it's actually a proper club where teen girls go and they come out of there high. This is a billboard on Ngong Road. I even posted it on WhatsApp. There was a parent who wrote, crying, saying her daughter has been going there and coming home drunk. If such a billboard can be put up there, nobody's saying anything. What do you expect these other authorities to do? I don't want to name names. But, Levi, I have done what I can do trying to get into these systems to address these issues. Not because I want money or fame, but because of what I know, because of what I've gone through. But these authorities are preaching water and drinking wine. So, I think for anyone who is listening to me and they have a relative or a significant other who is struggling, imagine you're the only one who can save that person. Don't rely on these people. These are just bodies up there because they need to be in any structure of any government in any country. It is up to us, you as a parent, I as a parent, to talk to our children, to talk to our relatives and friends and teach them. Because imagine that's the best we can do.
Are we enough?
What else do we do for now? Because even the church is not doing enough. That's another place where I am a believer, but for sure, you also go to church.
Yeah.
You can tell me the church is not doing enough.
It's funny,
you're invited today. You're
Yeah.
invited to your church today.
Yeah.
You go, you speak to your teens, to guys in church, and they want more of you. True?
They
want more. But for the church, it was just a program. It is over. Next. But these guys are hungering to hear more. Okay?
Yeah.
But the church leaves
It's so
it like
surprising
that.
you say that. I had a meeting with a church pastor just the day before yesterday, and we were talking about, from a very mainstream church, we were talking about a ministry that he needs to start in church to talk about alcoholism and drugs.
Yeah.
And he said, you know, right now we are focused on evangelizing, and I'm like, okay, sawa, we are evangelizing. But this thing is in the church.
Yes.
There are drunkards here.
Yes, right from the top. Not even the congregation, right
from the
there.
top. Yes.
Praise and worship, praise and worship.
They're-
Then after, they are somewhere. We know them. It's only that we don't name names, but they're there. What are you evangelizing if you're not getting to the grassroots of the problem? Who did Jesus come for? Jesus came for the lost. He came for the broken. He came for the desperate. He came for those people who nobody thought anything about. And that is the purpose of the church. Now, you tell us, and I repeated it and I'm going to repeat it again. You tell us Jesus saves, Jesus heals, Jesus restores. He does all of the above. But Jesus would also like you, Pastor Nani, to talk to these guys about alcohol, about drugs, about sex, about masturbation, about gambling. Talk to the things that these people in your congregation deal with from Monday to Saturday. Sunday they come to repent their sins. Then Monday they are back to their sex, their alcohol, their drugs, their masturbating, their porn. You are just talking about, yes, Jesus is awesome, but surely if he was here, he would address those things. But in church, you invite us for a 1-week youth program. These guys want to hear more. Okay, fine, you teach them about finances, great. You coach them about life, yes. But you see now, surely, where we are as a nation, we are in such a bad place when it comes to substance abuse, but this thing is not being addressed properly. How much can I do? How much can you do? We need the church. These Walevis come to church for Kesha on 31st. They are high like kites. They want to hear something, and that's the reason they have come. They want to hear how you can help them break that addiction, but you're not talking about it. So what do we do? So it can get very frustrating trying to deal with this. I'm only one person, you're only one person.
Yeah.
What do we do? That's what I'm saying now, for where we are as a nation. You speak to your people, I speak to my people, and maybe our people will speak to other people. That's the best
So
we
as a
can
voice
do.
right now, what are you doing? Tell us.
What am I doing? Gosh, 2023, I am trusting God for big things. To enlarge my initiative. My initiative is Caroline KAGIA Wellness Initiative. I founded it a few years ago, whereby I go and speak in schools, speak to children, speak to students.
Yeah.
I speak in corporates. I've been privileged to have to speak in engagements in different platforms. So I want to create awareness as I share my story, but my story is not enough. So now I want to teach on addiction. What is addiction? Like a whole, what do we call it, syllabus on understanding addiction. Because once you understand addiction, you see that you know the do's and the don'ts. Chances are, if you've not started engaging in any of the above, you will not. If you're already caught up, you will seek help.
Yeah.
So that is my aim for this year.
What about preventative? Because, you know, sometimes we talk, like in Kenya, we talk so much about what has happened when it has happened. We're trying to get the addicts out, and that's excellent. We should.
Yeah.
But do you think, for example, that we need like a syllabus to touch on such things in Form 1 level?
Not from 1, in primary.
Tell me why.
Starting from class 5. These kids are smoking, these guys are drinking from class 4. I've had clients who tell me they started drinking at the age of 10.
Yeah.
They used to steal booze from their father's cellars in the house, and they drink. That's how guys start now. Class 4. Standard 4, how old are you? 10 years. Is it 10? Yeah. From the time these kids are 10, these CBC guys don't joke with them. They know more than we knew at our ages. Okay? These kids need to start being taught these things from as early as they can ask, Mommy, what is that? It's called beer. What does beer do? Already. My daughter is 8. She's turning 8. Of course, she has seen mine is she's a CBC material. They know these things.
Yes,
and the mother was
like, all CBC material
they know
too.
these things.
Yeah.
So you don't cheat them. Ati, what is that, Mommy? When they say a billboard.
Soda ya daddy.
Ati soda ya daddy. Soda ya daddy. Can I taste? No, you'll taste when you're older. You have already preempted. Yeah. Surely. You start teaching these kids. These kids are sharp. They're not like us. Us we used to be, I mean, look at you and I. We've both struggled with alcoholism.
Yes.
We used to be, a lot of things used to be hidden from us. A lot.
True.
And we ended up finding out in our own ways. And they almost killed us. But thank God we are here today.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah.
Imagine.
We are here today. But these ones, imagine, for those parents who still think that those children don't know anything, don't be fooled. These kids know. And if you don't tell them, they'll find a dysfunctional kid somewhere who will teach them those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're the best teacher for your child. And if you as a parent, you're dysfunctional, please don't attempt to teach your child anything. Go seek for help and take your child to an auntie or an uncle who is sober. If you as a parent, you're dysfunctional, there's nothing you're teaching your child. Yeah. The earlier, the better. And not only on substance, even things to do with sex. These children need to know. No hiding. That's where we are now. Because your kid will come and tell you, Mom, Daddy, when I was in school, Suji, Nani told me this about this. What does that mean? And then you go hiding, cheating them. There are very many dysfunctional children around your children. If you don't
so
teach them, they'll be taught.
the focus you have on women, is it because, they say it takes, a woman, if you teach a woman, you've taught a village or something like that. What's the drive for the women mostly about? Is it because they're the most vulnerable, they're the most unapproached, or do you think they'll have the greatest impact? Women will have the greatest impact. I thank God for the years I've been sober, and I thank God for the doors He has opened for me to speak locally and internationally addressing this issue of women. And I thank God because I've been able to touch women's lives, and I know many who have changed because they call me and they tell me. So my drive is, first of all, to get those women who are struggling to come out and speak about it, because there's healing in speaking. You do not have to care what people around you will say. People already know you're struggling anyway. It's only that they're not telling you. True. So get your healing, come out and speak about it, and empower others. Me, in fact, actually, that's the word. My desire this year is to empower women, to empower others. I want to create a movement of women who have gone through addiction and are now in recovery and are willing to share their stories. I'm actually going to hold a conference very soon, targeting women, because we are the ones who will move this nation. If we actually make a stand, and you're properly sober, not closet drinking, and then you come out cheating people you're sober. You're properly sober. We form a movement and come out and empower others to empower others. I'm telling you, there'll be a change in this nation. We do not need those guys up there. Let us start from us, hapa kwa mashinani. We are the ones who will be able to turn around this nation, because we are the homemakers. We are the mothers. We are the ones who make decisions in the home, as much as they say men are the heads of the home. You're the naturals, yeah. Yeah. So we are the ones who will be able to transform this nation. Yeah. Yeah. And men do a lot for women. I remember when I was dating, I ended up in a kesha because my wife liked keshas. But you see, if she liked bars, we would be in a bar. You probably don't even have survived. There's sometimes I see men do a lot of a man will go to church. Yeah. Because he wants that. Because he wants, yeah. And maybe in his going to church, he'll get something. Yeah. That's the way God works. Yeah. And He works through women. Yeah. So imagine if I form or we form a movement of women who are passionate as I am about this thing. Me, when I got into speaking about my story, I never thought my story would spiral the way it has spiraled. My story is not big, but God has chosen to use me to reach out to others. I was not looking for fame or fortune. If they come, well and good. But what I wanted people to know that it's possible to recover. And it's possible. Was it a difficult story to tell? Some bits were. But as the years have gone by, I realized I can speak about some things without crying. Yeah. That's when I realized my healing has come. Which parts were hardest? Wow, I'm talking about my miscarriages, which were alcohol-induced. I think that was the hardest part. In fact, the first time
I spoke about that on an international channel. It was on BBC. And then I remember that Sunday when my story came out, I was in a church. I'd been called to speak in a church. And then someone sent me a message when I was at the pulpit, on the pulpit of that church in Utawala. And the message said, your story is running on BBC. Levi, I do not know what happened. I broke down in front of a whole congregation. I just started crying. I couldn't stop. I was like, my God, the story just kept coming. Wow. That was the first time and the last time it happened, but it's taken me time to speak about it. And then I realized I've really not healed from it, because when I shared my story recently with a friend of ours, I was in his studio. A certain lady came to talk about a miscarriage that she had. I remember walking out of that
triggered.
room. I walked out of that room and I went and I broke down completely, and I realized I still have not healed from that. I think it's because of the guilt, realizing that those miscarriages were triggered by something I could have tried to control or seek help about, but I didn't. So I think that is a regret I'll probably carry for the rest of my life. As much as I've had a child after that, my daughter is alive by the mercies of God and she's doing very well. But I think that's a regret I'll carry probably for a very long time.
You know, that issue of guilt, Caroline, is so heavy on people who have had, you know, an alcoholic, how do I call it? A moment with alcohol, some of it lasting years, and now they have come out and stuff. And that's the reason why people don't talk. From what I've seen, some guys are carrying so much guilt and shame still. Okay, so they've stopped drinking. Yes, now they're sober, but they don't want the shame to come out. They don't want people to know that was me. And that's why, as a result, stories like yours really go far, because not only is it telling a story that resonates, it's also that you're bold enough to say it. You know, someone sits, and I'm sure you've got most, oh my goodness, you're so brave. You could say that. You could say that, because some of them could not say. I was in a rehab recently, and a lady talked to me about her struggle with alcoholism and her struggle with a child that died. You know, it resonated with me because I'd had the same thing, and how the relatives did not forgive her because this child dying was because of her own actions as an alcoholic. She was driving, they had an accident, the child died, and now she's in rehab, and she says, I'm leaving rehab and they have not forgiven me. And I haven't forgiven myself. And
that's usually the hardest part, and that's what leads to recurrent relapses.
That's what I said too. You know, so a lot of people are watching us there, and they would like to tell the story. They're in their church, they're now singing in the choir, or they are in, you know, they're in some ministry somewhere, or they're a person of influence in whatever circle they are in, but they can't tell their story. Because telling their story would mean going back to a deep, dark place that they wouldn't want to dredge. How do we get them to do that in saying that you want people to empower people?
I normally say you have at least one person. You know, God is not mean, he's not unfair. You can even pray to him and ask him to give you that one person, not necessarily a therapist, but just one person who you can talk to and relay whatever happened. There must be someone somewhere you can trust. For me, I thank God because I have a circle. My friends, my female friends, majority of them are much older than me. I prefer it that way. There are women who are grounded, solid women in the church, awesome women. They've been with me when I relapsed the second time. They were there, they came to see me in rehab. Those are people who I have told things that only me, them, God know. And those stories will never go anywhere. Because there are times you feel like you don't want to see a therapist. A therapist is a stranger, but you want to see somebody who will hear you and not judge you. They'll not go like, oh my God, you mean you actually? But you want somebody who is mature enough to listen to what you have to say. And you can cry, you can scream, you can do whatever. If you're those kind of people who feel you're not able to trust anybody because of one or two things that have happened in your life along the way, you could do the empty chair therapy, whereby that chair is empty and I'm seated here. And I'm talking to that chair as if the person who hurt me is in that chair. And I'm telling that person everything I wanted to say, everything I've ever wanted to say. If you were molested as a child, that's why you became an alcoholic, you speak to the person who molested you. If you were raped, if it was your mother who did you, whatever, your father, somebody, whoever hurt you, you speak to that person in that chair. If you're not able, you can also write down I used to do that the first time I was in rehab. You get a journal. You write. There's power in writing, and there's a lot of healing. You write up to where you feel you're not able to. You close the book, take a walk, do something, make yourself busy. When you have the energy again, come back and write again. When you're done, you tear those papers and throw them. It's like you've thrown the pain away. If
you have a burning ceremony.
Yeah, you have a burning ceremony and you dance around it and you move on. It's not witchcraft. You're just, getting rid of the old ghosts.
Us Kenyans.
Yeah, you think it's uchawi.
Yeah.
If you've lost a child like me, or of that lady, I'm so sorry for that lady. That must have been terrible. That one is hard. That one you probably need to talk to somebody. That is not easy. For me, I still realize I'm still getting my healing. Years later, imagine, I'm still getting my healing from that. And it takes time. I don't imagine in your situation how you've handled it, but for me, I think it will be, I think that is what keeps me sober now, realizing that a life went, or 2 lives went because of my poor choices. Some of these things you need therapy. They just don't go away. Even when you get another child, you'll always remember there was another one somewhere. Yeah. So there are many ways of killing a cat. So those are just 2 that I've given. The chair and the writing, or in sing therapy, number 3. Yeah.
I hear what you're saying. So a number of people would say, the ladies, I'm not an alcoholic. I'm not as bad as one. So in a few sentences, how would you describe someone to know that if you have this, you probably should check yourself?
Yeah,
what should they check?
It's something I normally tell people to do called the CAGE test. C-A-G-E. C stands for cut down. Have you tried to cut down on your drinking and you've been unable? C stands for cut down. Have you tried cutting down on your drinking and you've been unable? A stands for anger. Have people been angry at you, or have you been angry at yourself because of how you drink? G stands for guilt. Do you feel guilty every time you open a bottle or a kanusu? And E stands for eye opener, or kutoa lock. Do you find yourself having to have a drink in the morning because of the way you drank last night? If you said yes to C-A-G-E, either of the above, cutting down, anger, guilt, or eye opening, or kutoa lock, then you're an alcoholic, or you're on the highway to becoming an alcoholic.
Because by the time you're trying to cut down, people have even people tell you.
Yeah, people tell you.
Even drunkards will tell you, unakunywa sana.
Na unakunywa haraka. Unakunywanga haraka.
And you're amongst them.
Then you become a closet drinker, or you become like me. I used to go to the bar early, so that
when they find you tired on the highway.
I am lit. Now they can catch up if they're able. And then now when I saw people are complaining about my drinking, I became a closet drinker. I'll finish drinking in the bar, then I'll go pass by wines and spirits, I continue in the house. Then ultimately I stopped drinking in the bar, because when the bar where I used to go, and the barman, I hear he passed away, rests in peace. He said, I'm not going to be selling to you alcohol, Carol. The way you drink is scary. So I stopped.
He refused?
He refused. Completely. I would never, that bar was called
Taneja. I think he said getting guilty now. He's so naribu you.
Yeah, the bar was called Taneja. Now it was changed into Taneja restaurant. He was called Mike. He told me, Karu, Mr. Kwana kuzia pombe. I'm telling you, even if I would go looking sober like a judge, Karo sikuzi pombe. Simple. So then I stopped drinking. So I would go through, that's when I discovered wines and spirits, and I said, hallelujah, you mean? So I would buy my drink, go home and chill. Hey, Karo, today I'm not going out. Today I want to stay at home, I'm fine. Yes, I'm really fine, by the way. I have my cigarettes, I have my pombe, coffee tea.
So you drink now in the house?
Became a closet drinker. And there's nothing more dangerous than being a closet drinker. Because when you're alone, you drink the way you want. I mean, after all, toilet is there, bedroom is there,
kitchen, there's no limits.
And
there's no one saying at it too fast, what?
If I'm unable, in the bar, you can't crawl to your bed. In your house, you can crawl to your bed, or you can black out on the couch or on the floor. Who cares? You're in your house anyway. Closet drinkers die faster than people who drink in the bar. Because nobody's telling you, nobody's restricting you, nobody's telling you anything. You can drink the way you want.
Because the sheer amount of just input. What about this whole thing? Is it a myth that they say that, the women have a shorter you know, how do I put it? The ability to get drunk is faster in ladies. Is it even true?
From the research
Because
that
from
has
your
been
stories,
done,
you know, there are some
we
women who
might-
can drink men under the
under the
table.
table. No,
Yeah,
no, for me, for me as Carol, my tolerance level for a lot of things, not only substance, my tolerance for a lot of things is very high. And I think that's not a good thing. Well, it could be.
It could be a good
depends.
even for pain. It could be a good thing.
For a lot of things, it's very high. But they say women get faster, higher because I think we have more water or something. I don't know. There's some scientific something to that, but apparently we get high faster than men. Yeah. Yeah.
Quite possibly
reason.
so. But of course,
But me, I was not those ones.
someone can build resistance with how much they're drinking, especially in the closet,
Yeah.
until suddenly, you know, you have a bottle and you're feeling nothing.
Yeah. And by the way, even
And,
drinking a
you know,
750
and-
ml is nothing. I remember there's once
Yeah.
a neighbor of mine, when I was living in Matasia, there was a neighbor of mine who, her in-laws were coming to their home, and they came unexpectedly, and they had a bottle of Southern Comfort on the table. It was full. Her and the husband were just about to enjoy until his parents checked in. So she came
Why
knocking.
is parents those ones of checking in and let's share?
No, the parents were those ones of Kanisa. So this Southern Comfort had to be hidden somewhere because apparently the mother-in-law is the one who goes around to the bedrooms, you looking for what? So this girl decides to come through the back gate to my back door, and me, I was outside. So she says, Carol, do me a favor, keep for me the Southern Comfort. I'll take it when my in-laws go.
Kumbe nikupatia wolf nyama. Akuweke.
You know, we cosaned after that day. You know, Southern Comfort is sweet. I'm not marketing it.
Do not market it here, wewe.
I'm telling you, in less
can't
than
believe
2 hours, in less than 2 hours, that Southern Comfort was finished.
And
She had awoken the demons because I'd not touched alcohol for 2 weeks. I found myself going to the Wines and Spirits in Matasia to look for another one. When she came asking for it, I would tell my son, tell her I'm not here. So my son was not understanding what's going on. That girl looked for me for 1 week. Until the day we bumped into each other in town and she pretended she doesn't even know me. Because of course she knew what has happened.
She knew.
Yeah, I'd imbibed it and finished it.
Umepatia nini? Fisi nyama.
Bas,
Akuweke.
that was it.
It's terrible. Do you know, sometimes I say for all the stories that we can tell and we laugh, thank God we can laugh about them.
Yeah.
There are so many who cannot tell that story because either they passed on or, you know, they were maimed by alcohol and drugs. Now they are suffering from whatever diseases, you know. Some of them maybe by the drugs themselves, they've completely wasted their own bodies. And sometimes I say, well, thank God that if you have the life and the mind and the ability to see that you're doing something wrong, it's better to change it just now.
It's true.
There's a question normally asked about rehabs. A lot of folks watching us even, they think if you send someone to rehab, you can fix them. And there's been a hue and cry because a lot of people who come out of rehabs don't really get fixed, so to speak. In fact, they say statistically, I had the National Association, the chairman of rehabs was here just some weeks ago, and he was telling me that it's 35%. I thought it was even 15. I think it's even quite high for 35%. He said 35% of people get better, or they are able to sustain the sobriety. A whooping 65% do not. You know, he blamed the rehab, saying some rehabs are out to make money, and of course their structures are not for complete follow-ups and systems. And then I met somebody else who told me that, you know, in his thoughts, a rehab should technically be 1 year. Not 3 months, not 6 months, not 9 months. A year off, you go somewhere. The first half of the first 3 months, you don't meet anyone. You know, get engaged with the rehab and blah, blah, blah. The next 3 months, people begin to visit you. The following 3 months, the rehab gives you something, a responsibility, a task, something, money, something they can do, but you're within. Go, come back, blah, blah. The final 3 months, you now begin to get reacquainted with the world, and then they can let you go. A year will have passed of your sobriety. You'll be able to stand better. I don't know which method you think works and what you can tell people about trying to help their loved ones. What would work?
Wow, this could actually be a whole conversation on its own. I know of a certain rehab, it's a Christian rehab that is a 1 year, it's a 12-month, purely Christian-based program. When I relapsed, that's where I was taken. I was supposed to do 1 year, but I refused. I did 3 months. I know people who've been there, who've done an entire year, but they still relapse. I know people who've gone to rehab for 3 months and they never relapse.
And that's it.
And that's it.
Yeah.
There are people even, I know there's a certain rehab where I normally go to speak in Kahawa West, and there's a client who has been there, Levi, for 3 years.
I know one who I was in rehab with in 2011. Last year I went to the rehab for graduation, and he was there.
He's still there.
He's been doing, it's a cycle.
Yeah.
He gets out 3 months, he lasts 6 months, he relapses, the parents take him back. The parents have been able to afford the rehab, because it's quite pricey nowadays. When I was there, it was not as pricey as it is, but over time, I think it has become. But I hear what you're saying.
He must have a severe alcohol use disorder. Now, you
I
see,
hear
rehab is good. It gives you time to not indulge in whatever you are indulging in, the substances that you are using. At least you give your body a break.
Yeah.
You see? People expect miracles when you take somebody to rehab. Rehab is not heaven. You cannot, and I'm saying this very carefully, you cannot expect someone to change in 3 months if they've been drinking for 10 years, for 2 years. 3 months is just a time for them to reflect, to be detoxed, to be taught about rehab, to get their sobriety together and reevaluate their lives and change their mindsets. The reason most of these rehabs, first and foremost, I agree, most of the rehabs in this country are money-making schemes. If me, I open a rehab today, 6 months from now, I'll be driving the car of my dreams and living where I want to live. Because I will be riding on the desperation of the people who have seen me on TV and who have come to my rehab. And the reason I've not opened a rehab is because I'm not ready yet. I want to do it God's timing, not my timing. The reason many people relapse is because you have not changed your mindset. Your mindset is your game changer. And I keep repeating, your mindset is your game changer. This mind that God has given us can make you or break you. Many people who go into rehab involuntarily say, wacha nikitoka, I'll teach them a lesson. Okay? You're forgetting watanitambua. And you're forgetting they were trying to save you from death. They were trying to save you from yourself. But you're saying, they took me there to teach me a lesson. They were taking you there because they loved you. If they hated you, they would have allowed you to die on the streets. The reason also many people do not make it in recovery is because they go back to the people they used to hang out with, the places they used to hang out with, and the things they used to do. They don't change anything. And then number 2, family. Your family is not supportive. Most people who are taken into rehab, your parents have choked, they have washed their hands, they have said, ah. So even when you come out, they're still angry towards you. And then wanakupimia macho, they're waiting for you to make a blunder. Then they say, you see, we knew this person will never recover. So you're always walking on eggshells. Family is supposed to be the greatest support system.
True.
If you do not have a supportive system, you will relapse. If you do not go for any, not necessarily AA, if you do not engage yourself in activities other than the ones you used to engage in, you will relapse. If you do not talk to anybody about the things you're going through after recovery, as you're in recovery, you will relapse. For me, I'm a believer. If you do not go to church, engage in church activities, you will relapse. That's a fact. If you do not pray, you will relapse. They call it the higher power. Me, my higher power is Jesus. If you do not pray, you will relapse. There are so many things that can make people relapse. People say rehabs don't work. But I always tell people, before you take somebody to rehab, don't just throw somebody in rehab because you're desperate. Do your homework. Do your due diligence. Find out, where is this rehab? Who is the owner of this rehab? What kind of counselors are in these rehabs? Some of these rehabs have guys who just have certificates, not even in addiction counseling, pure counseling. You did counseling for 3 months.
True.
Ukapatiwa kazi rehab. Now you're a counselor. To counsel what? Or to counsel
Some
who?
of them are, a lot of them do see.
Bas. And then in rehab, these guys are paid so poorly. You're paid so badly. So even as a counselor, you're demotivated. You're dealing with high-end clients who are paying an arm and a leg, but you're being paid peanuts. How do you expect these counselors to counsel you? So I always tell people, find out. Talk to people like me who know about some of these rehabs, because I've spoken in so many rehabs. I know how these things operate. Rehab works, but you have to do your homework to find out where you take your person.
Do your homework. Can you imagine our time is up?
Imagine.
How do people find you, Carol?
Well, if you want to find me, you can find me on my social media handles. Facebook, Caroline Kagia. Facebook again, Caroline Kagia Wellness Initiative. My email address is carolinekagiawellness@gmail.com. My phone number, I'm available from 8 to 4, Monday to Friday.
Repeat it again.
I am available on phone Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. My office number is 0797 759 386. I repeat again, 0797 759 386. I look forward to hearing from you if you have a serious case for consultation. Thank you.
8 to 4 p.m.
8 to 4 p.m.
I like that.
Yes.
Saa zingine,
Napigwa masaa zingine za ajabu.
I know. But you know, keep doing, keep trying. Hopefully we'll also get people who are in the... I would have asked you to say a comment about NACADA, but...
Please don't.
I'll let it slide.
I would like to have a good weekend.
You want to have a good weekend?
Let's not talk about
let me hope that also that as you do these things, that the people also in charge up there can also, you know, get their act together with matters, you know, addiction.
I'll not even deal with those people. Me, I want to address the church.
Yeah.
The church, we profess that we're 80% Christians.
Yes.
Can the church leaderships in your different churches, would you please do something? Because the people who are suffering are in your churches. Can you start programs to address alcoholism and substance use in your churches? You'll be surprised at the turnaround in this country.
True. I will say no more.
Yeah.
Couldn't put it better. Caroline Kagia, she's a certified addiction therapist and a lady with a big, big story and a big, big heart. From us here, we say God bless you and have a lovely day. Stay tuned for Leah coming up with Ilosu.